Hey folks, it's Rick here with San Diego Timeline. We're in beautiful Old Town. We're about to take the tour of the African Museum Casa del Rey Moro, which means House of the Moorish King. Owned and operated by Professor Chuck Ambers, the spot was established in January of '98. He's celebrating his 12-year anniversary during Black History Month. So we're going to take a tour of the museum and find out what role Africans actually played in the history of San Diego. Let's go. Hey, Mr. Ambers.
Yes.
Rick.
My pleasure. Glad to welcome you. Welcome to the Casa del Rey Moro African Museum.
Thanks, sir.
Come right on in. Good. And I would welcome you to the facility. This is our Africa room that goes back 6,000 years of African world history.
Beautiful. Okay, good.
And welcome to our Africans in Latin America room, African Spanish. This is the Casa del Rey Moro, the House of the Moorish King, and that's the King of Spain. The Grand Palace of Alhambra, and 2/3 of the Moors were indigenous black Africans, and from 711 until the spring of 1492, they controlled all of Spain, all of Portugal, parts of France, Germany, and Italy, and that's why the first conquistadors here, Spaniards here in San Diego, were of mixed African descent. And welcome to our United States room and 500 years of African American history. Every room has its own academic chart. This chart goes back to 1492 when somebody sailed the ocean blue, Columbus. And so it breaks down into all of these categories that college students from a half a dozen different campuses come through here to do research. And so I found that I was doing so well working out of my own house that I needed a facility. And so that was part of why we came to Old Town. Old Town is historically where the first Europeans landed. And with those first Europeans, you had Spaniards who looked like me, descendants of African people called the Moors. About 60% of the Moors were indigenous black Africans of Islamic faith. They had controlled all of Spain, all of Portugal, parts of France, Germany, and Italy for almost 800 years. So with Columbus and Cortez and Pizarro and Balboa and Ponce de Leon, and right here in San Diego with Juan Cabrillo. So knowing that this was a hub, this is like the Plymouth Rock of the West Coast, where the first Europeans landed, I knew that you had people of mixed African descent with them. So I wanted this museum to be in the heart of a historically accurate district and not in the so-called African American community, the hood, because this is the most accurate place, because this is where the first Europeans. So when I came to Old Town, I had 3 exhibits in the state park. I became a docent, a tour guide in the state park, documented what they knew was already there, developed the personality of Governor Pio Pico of mixed African descent that some of them were a little resistance to, but I had the documentation to verify and prove it and all. And so we became an academic source here in San Diego, in Old Town. And so I decided to buy a facility. Wanted to be in the state park, but the state park regulations were so restrictive, I bought the property here. So in 1997, I bought the property, and it took me about 6 months to convert it to a museum. When I first moved here, we looked like the house across the street. We're a house. There's 2 small houses on this lot. We had grass, shrubs, and trees, just like the house across the street, my neighbors next door. And so we organized. I rented the house in the back to pay for part of my mortgage because I didn't have enough of an income. And so we started selling things. I needed more of a gift shop. I had a little bitty gift shop in the back room. And some of the business partners said, put your gift shop out on the sidewalk. Because we have 5 to 7 million tourists that walk through Old Town. Old Town is the busiest state park in the whole of the system in California. And so I said, fine, let us put the gift shop. So we built a little bit of a African marketplace. As I travel now and buy products from African countries, I ship them back, and that's part of what we sell to assist and augment the income. But you get into the 1830s when Mexico, like many other Latin countries, become independent from Spain. Mexico becomes independent and they control San Diego, California, Mexico. So this is just New Mexico. And they had a mixture of African Mexicans, because you had, during the time of Spanish history, you had almost 500,000 Africans, slaves brought into through Veracruz, the eastern seaport of Mexico, and they became a part of the fiber of every socioeconomic level of Mexico. So in 1830, when Mexico took over, you still had certain movement and wagon trains, and also you had not just African Spanish, but now you have African Mexicans that are here in San Diego also. In 1920, you had families that got tired of getting segregated and discriminated in the urban area downtown. They moved out to the coast. No man's land. The saying was, who would ever want to live way out there? And now you got multi-million-dollar homes in La Jolla, but you also have an African-American AME church in La Jolla today, a block off of Pearl Street, right there next to Bishop's Private School. And about 15 months ago, we unveiled the first African-American street sign in La Jolla. You go downtown, you had the Douglas Hotel that was right there on 2nd and Market Street, right behind what is now the Ralph's Supermarket, right downtown in the gas lamp area. If you go to the intersection of 2nd and Market Street, on the northeast corner, you will see a bronze plaque in the pavement and one of those antique little benches representing the Douglas Hotel. But we had African Americans that lived all down. The Douglas Hotel was the only hotel basically owned by African Americans for African Americans. And so it had a restaurant and things in it, but it had a nightclub called the Creole Palace. And the Creole Palace was part of that Chitlin circuit, where African American entertainers traveled through the South and had a place to stay but could perform. And you had to pay major bucks to get into the Creole Palace. They had a cover charge. So we have a poster of the Creole Palace that goes back to 1935.
Nice.
And the cover charge on the Creole Palace in 1935 was major bucks, 25 cents.
Jeez. Well, that's all the time we have today. Hope you've enjoyed a little taste of San Diego history and the impact of African culture on our beautiful city. Professor Ambers and his associates are currently seeking funding to expand their museum. He's also available for lectures and seminars. You can reach him at AfricanMuseumSanDiego.com or right here in Old Town at 2471 Congress Street. Hope to see you there. Again, it's Rick from 3rd One Productions in San Diego Timeline.